Hi, I'm Dr. William Cox. I'm a cognitive scientist, and I study how the brain's learning mechanisms, which usually serve us very well, can sometimes lead us astray. One example of this is that we all learn stereotypes about various social groups from culture, and those stereotypes can sometimes lead us to think and behave in biased ways, even if we don't intend to. This training is about how to overcome these kinds of unintentional bias. It's possible you've had bias or diversity trainings before, or that you might in the future, but this one is different. Most bias or diversity trainings are not based on solid scientific evidence, and when researchers evaluate the efficacy of those trainings, it turns out that they at best do nothing, and sometimes they actually make bias and diversity-related problems worse. This training, however, has been rigorously tested in over 12 years of experiments and has been shown scientifically to help people reduce bias in themselves and in the world around them. Sometimes we'll explain ideas using an anecdote or visual rather than explaining the details of the research, but even those examples reflect well-documented scientific literature. People are often afraid that a bias training will involve someone pointing fingers, saying, "You're sexist, you're racist, you're anti-gay." This training, however, isn't about blaming any person or group for bias and diversity-related issues. Rather than placing blame, the goal of this training is to empower you by sharing the best of what the scientific evidence has to say about the nature of bias, where it comes from, how it manifests, and what we can all do to reduce it. This training focuses on fundamental principles about how the brain works and how stereotypes can lead to biased thoughts and behaviors. These principles apply to any group about which people have stereotypes, including sexual orientation, age, ethnicity, religion, and any others you can think of. As I cover topics, think about how the content can apply to other stereotyped groups beyond the specific examples I use. You may have heard other labels for unintentional bias, such as implicit bias or unconscious bias. For our purposes, these all refer to the same thing: automatic brain processes that arise from stereotypes about different groups that can lead people to think or act in biased ways without intending to, and sometimes without even being aware of it. We're going to talk about unintentional bias as a habit of mind and learn what is involved in breaking that habit. Bias operates at multiple levels. For instance, sociologists often emphasize the importance of institutional or systemic forms of bias, which includes things like laws, policies, and social norms. Although these forms of bias are important, today's training is focused more on the level of individual people. At the individual level, some forms of bias are intentional, when people consciously hate or look down on people from certain groups. We are going to focus on unintentional bias, which involves people whose intentions and values oppose bias, who believe in treating people fairly. More likely than not, you fall into this category of people. People who earnestly, consciously renounce prejudice, bias, and discrimination still sometimes find that stereotypes pop to mind and influence how they think and act, which is at odds with their conscious values. This is unintentional bias, and it creates a personal dilemma for people. Consider this personal dilemma as you hear a story from my colleague, Sarah, whose whole life's work is about combating gender biases.
I was walking down the street and I saw a student step off the curb and get hit by a car. So I ran over to help, and as I was kneeling down next to him, another woman came running up and she started shouting commands like, "Call 911, don't move the head." And I was like, "Oh, are you a nurse?" And she said, "No, I'm a doctor." Later, I was kicking myself like, oh, I can't believe I made an assumption about her based on gender. I suck. I was pretty mad at myself.
Sarah's story illustrates how unintentional bias can be a personal dilemma. Remember, Sarah's career is dedicated to combating gender bias, but she still fell prey to the easily supplied stereotypic assumption based on gender. And it's not that there's anything wrong with being a nurse rather than a doctor. It's that Sarah knew she wouldn't have made the same assumption if the person had been a man. For her, it's a personal dilemma because she fell short of her own values and intentions, which say that she shouldn't make stereotypic assumptions based on gender. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. To be notified of when we post new videos, click the bell icon to turn on notifications. You can also go to biashabit.com to learn more, to donate, to sign up for our newsletter, or to contact us about evidence-based bias and DEI trainings. Thank you.